Welcome back to the Horror Master YouTube channel. Welcome back to, oh my fucking god, day number 29. Jesus fucking Christ. I can't believe we've been going this far. Like I said, it feels unbelievable that I've been continuing this series to almost the very end, which again, guys, I cannot thank you so much for watching all the videos up to now. If you have yet to see any of my previous videos, I suggest you all to go watch them. Probably put the playlist somewhere around maybe here or there, depending on my editing skills. I've been having so much fun, guys, and it's a shame that this series is almost coming to an end. But like I said, guys, we're gonna end with a bang at the very end. We're gonna continue to the very end. But regardless, let's get into today's topic of discussion. Today's topic of discussion on episode number 29, we're gonna be tackling the Poltergeist franchise, a franchise that a lot of people that grew up in the 70s, saw it in the 80s, loved some of the films in that era, and then, of course, younger fans like myself who eventually saw some of the first films loved it, and some of them really hated it like shit. Which, I mean, Poltergeist is one of those franchises that has a love-hate relationship with a lot of horror fans for reasons I'm going to talk about in a bit. But regardless, it is a franchise that a lot of people really don't want to watch because it kind of leaves a kind of bad taste in their mouth. I don't know, for some reason some people don't like the Poltergeist franchise, which that's your opinion. If you don't like the Poltergeist franchise, I have nothing against you. But at least give them a try once in a while. I mean, yeah, my giving my 2 cents about it. Regardless, let's get into the rankings. So we have 4 films in the franchise, and before I start ranking these 4 films, I got a bit of a confession. So two out of the 4 films I've never seen before until I was doing this rank 'em all. So you might get a perspective on 2 of the films from a first time viewer instead of the other 2 films we have seen a couple of multiple times. But I just want to leave that, just want to put that out there. But regardless, let's get into the rank 'em all. So at number 4, at the bottom of the barrel, we have Poltergeist 3. Now this is one of the 2 films that I've never seen before, and watching this film, I kind of understand why a lot of people have it at the very bottom. But of course, unfortunately, this was the last film that, of course, the little girl, I'm forgetting her name, actually was a part of, because if I remember correctly, she passed away while recording, while production was on the film, while they were doing some editing skills. I don't remember. Because if I remember correctly, what I read before, she passed away in February, and this film aired in, I think, June of 88, 87. I think it was 1988, if my numbers are correct. 88. So right off the gate, you kind of have this feeling that this film didn't feel really finished. I felt that this film was incomplete because, of course, of the tragedy of course, the little girl who passed away. So I guessing the studio or the director tried to, I guess, rush the film, even though the practical events of this film are so practical. They kind of went back to that old school, no CGI kind of effect, which I do appreciate in that film. But this film is kind of weird because when the little girl goes into this building or like a school or something that is for the gifted, and I'm like, what does that to do with the whole poltergeist thing? Which, of course, the poltergeist thing is, of course, a more down to earth suburbs, kind of more family intimate kind of thing, which completely got me off guard. But from, like I mentioned before, with the passing of the little girl, it kind of puts a shadow on the film, or some people say a curse. Like, you know, some people say this franchise has been cursed for a long time, and I do want to see the reasons why a lot of people don't want to watch this film. But as a film, it's not the greatest. It ain't the worst either. But it's a film that, if you're ever curious about watching it, probably give it a shot just to see you actually watched it. But like I said, it's a tragedy that the little girl passed away while actually, you know, this film was being created. Which, it's not the first time that an actor unfortunately passes away while, being on a role in a film. Of course, the most one of the most infamous ones was, of course, Brandon Lee from The Crow. But that's a different story. At number 3, we have Poltergeist, the 2015 remake. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I am not against remakes. I do believe that remakes can elevate the franchise to a broader audience. For people who, like myself, who didn't watch the original when it came out, or maybe to younger fans who have never seen the original Poltergeist trilogy and want to experience something in the theater to watch this film, it is a great marketing technique. But I felt that this film tried to be almost exactly like the original film. And I mentioned before, I like it when remakes take a bit of liberty and create their own story, but still keeping some of the aspects, some of the ideas from the original franchise, but create their own unique twist on it. One of those great examples that I can probably say is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 version, which they took some of the aspects from the original Texas Chainsaw, but created some, added more different stuff to it, and for the reasons the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake was my number one when I did that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, rank them all. But this remake, if I were to rank the latest remakes in horror from worst to the bottom, this is probably one of those remakes I might have not at the very bottom, not the very middle, kind of between middle and bad, kind of like middle bad. That's the proper word I can say, because I feel that this film tried its best, even though a lot of people might say you're being a hypocrite because this remake is not as good as some other remake I mentioned earlier before. But this remake, it's not the worst, it ain't the best. It's a great film if you want. There's some aspects I did enjoy. I'm not totally trashing on the film, but I felt that this remake was really unnecessary in my personal opinion, because what made the original Portuguese work, because of the practical events, even though they use some CGI in the original film, they kind of lost that magic of it into when they were making the remake. But regardless, if you ever have seen the remake, I give it a watch. Would I recommend you to watch it? Yeah, probably watch it just to see that you saw it. But in terms of remakes, it's probably in the middle, maybe not the lower bottom of horror remakes in recent memory or in the past maybe 10 years. So, for little reasons, the Poltergeist remake ends up by number 3. At number 2, we have Poltergeist 2 The Other Side. This is the sequel to, of course, the original, and like I mentioned before, sequels are always movies that have a lot of critical acclaim because they want to see if they can surpass what the original did. And this is one of those rare occasions that the sequel really didn't live up to the hype, because once you saw the original film, you felt that the story ended. You know that there was a whole complete story and it ended. There was no loose twins in the franchise that could explain in later films. There wasn't nothing to explain other than that, the family, escaped from the burial ground and all that. But this film, Poltergeist to the Other Side, again, it tried to extend more upon the lore of the Poltergeist, saying all that one of the spirits got attached to the family and they're on then they gotta go back to the house and all that. So I do want to say one thing: the old man in the film, one of the creepiest motherfuckers I've ever seen in a horror franchise, and he's not even the main antagonist, or maybe he is. I don't remember, like I said, but the way that he says, y'all gonna die here," like, dude, you're creeping me the fuck out, and it takes a lot for me to get the creep the fuck out. But Poltergeist 2 is one of those rare occasions that the sequel didn't live up to the hype, unfortunately. But a lot of people have never seen the film. Me being one of them, of course, this was the first time that I saw it, and I enjoyed it. But give this film a shot, because it has some little moments that I do appreciate that they tried to bring back from some of the original elements from the first film. But again, it wasn't really necessary to make a sequel, or in general, it wasn't really necessary to make the rest of the films that they just already talked about. But of course, money talks, but that's a different story. But Poltergeist to the Other Side, a great little film, a film that I might see more often than the remake or even part 3, because at least has some of the aspects from the original film. So that's why it's at number 2. And of course, at number 1, we have the original Poltergeist. What more can I say that I haven't said about the original Poltergeist so much? But other than that Toby Hooper directed the film and not shit, I'm forgetting his fucking name. Not Jar Carpenter. I'm forgetting. I have Steven Spielberg. Toby Hooper directed the film, not Steven Spielberg, which is a big, big, big misconception that a lot of people think that Steven Spielberg directed the film when in fact it was Toby Hooper. Steven Spielberg just was maybe one of the executive producers, but he didn't fucking direct the fucking film. Now that that's out of the question, Poltergeist, one of the most iconic horror films in recent memories. Hell, I might even say that the Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist, top 20 horror films of all time, or even top 20 most influential horror films of all time, because at the time, the effects, I mean, when you have a family moving to a new neighborhood, and you eventually find out at the end of the film that your fucking house and the entire neighborhood was built in a former cemetery. That's crazy to think that no wonder some of the properties are cheap, because this fucking building, this fucking house was built on top of a cemetery. They didn't move the fucking graveyards, they didn't move the fucking caskets and tombstones. They just decided to move the fucking tombstones and leave the fucking caskets still in the bottom, which is fucking crazy to think that you're living on top of a cemetery. That's scary enough alone to think that that's fucking nuts. And then, of course, everything happens in the house, from stuff being moved around, ghost appearances, the fucking clown, which ugh, for a while I was scared of clowns, but the thing for when I was a kid, so that's kind of scary to think. But from the CGI, and of course, one of the most iconic scenes in horror, when the little girl is touching the TV and she says with her sweet little voice, "They're here." That's eerie yet iconic. It's a film that a lot of people have begun to love even more as time has gone by. It's a film that some people might say it's outdated. I don't think it is. At the time, it was a revolutionary film, but it's a film that has gone down in history as one of the best horror films, maybe in the 80s, to be honest. If I remember, there might be some other horror films that I'm not thinking, but in terms of the 80s, probably one of the greats. In terms of like top horror films, maybe top 20, top 25, or maybe top 30. But regardless, the Fourth Poltergeist is expected to be at my number one. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed this prank call. We're 2 days away from finishing the entire franchise, and I cannot thank you guys so much for stopping on by, for liking the videos, for following through this entire journey to the downward spiral. Who would have thought that we can go in this far? So for tomorrow's video, for episode 30, day 30, we are finally gonna be ranking the entire Hellraiser franchise. Yes, I am doing Hellraiser, which a lot of people were scared that I wasn't gonna do Hellraiser. The only reason I waited was because the brand new film came out. So once I saw the film already, so we're gonna see where I rank that film. But stay tuned now for tomorrow's video for Hellraiser. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the shebang. Follow me on my Instagram. Don't forget to follow me on my Twitter. And like I said, guys, thank you guys all for watching. And until next time, stay metal.